Hello everybody, this is Public Eye and my name is Funmi. Today's topic is witch child. All over Nigeria, hundreds of thousands of children are accused daily by religious organizations, family and relatives of being witches. The consequences of this accusation can be really dire as these children are often tortured, punished or cast aside by their family. This topic or this issue has had a lot of publicity, a lot of conversations going on about it, but it seems to persist. Is there anything that can bring succor to the so-called witch child? Is there a future where we will no longer have children being tortured under the guise of the idea that they might be witches? What, in any case, is a witch child? We'll find out on today's show. But before we start, I'd like you to say this.
My name is Faith. I'm 15 years old. My mom died 2017, March 30th. But later when things started changing, my dad one day came into the house where we were staying at the chicken house. He arranged the place, floored the place, he put bed, everything. It was raining that day. My dad came inside and we prayed. Later it was with broom. It surprised us. He asked us whether we are winch. We said no, we are not. That if we were winch, that we have killed him ever since. He was doing as if he wanted to use the broom to whip us. Then I stood up. I said no, this thing can't happen. I stood up and said I am the winch, so that we just cut everything short. I didn't know that I was doing myself harm, but I didn't know. I just say I'm a winch. Then my stepmom called my dad. My dad told her that one of us have said that we are a winch. She put a penknife in her pocket. She tied wrapper. I didn't know what happened. She said that if I don't confirm, if I don't do this, I'm going to die. And that day, the chair was the chair was big. So that today, if not, if I don't free, she was the one that said I was responsible of tying her womb. That I can't allow her to born again. That I'm the one causing everything. That today that she's going to kill me. Yes, I was saying that I was just joking. She removed the wrapper, removed the knife. Hold me. I shouted Jesus. She tried to choke me, but she can't. Then she laid me on that bed. The inch of that bed was pressing me. I was the point of death. When my dad came inside and said, you see what happened? He told me the date I'm going to die if I didn't confess. That was December 28th. They gave me time, that time I'm going to die. I didn't voice them and say, God, if it's your will, let it happen. But if it's not your will, like, do anything that you want to do. And the part that really pained us that we didn't go to school often. We can go for 2 times a week or 3 times a week. Then he locked us in the fervour house. No way. He will give us garri. That's what we use and eat in the evening. So only God knows how we pass, because in the chicken house there is much of space there. Place where it was on the zinc that we used to collect food. Neighboring, when they see us, we tell them our story. They pity us, we give us food. They find out, my stepmom and my dad find out the place. They sealed that place. Then we're starving to death. This is a place my dad put us into. Then there was no ventilation. Before he put this window here, they were tarpaulin before he came and do it. And this is a place we used to push here to get food. Then this other side here, this was the toilet. Then it was this place, through this place here, we used to get our food from. This place here, then he sealed that place. That's how he kept us there inside, crying. And this was the main house that he was staying with my stepmom and my stepsister. Then us were staying in this place here. Myself, my little siblings were locked up in that chicken house for 1 year plus.
In this community, both men and women, even young girls and young boys, never had such thing called him wench in this community. He was the father that make that statement.
I don't believe, no be wench. Because of the second wife. Because no be every second wife that good with the step husband children. I don't believe that kind of thing. Because my wrong one, Yadi get a yogi bandit or a bandit or much is also one. That's why I go in between Montrose and the door, they bang it up. The door you fought.
Before we know, the chief of that NHRC came. We told them our story. The urban powers came. We told them. Then my auntie that was just back there newly, so they told him what happened. He said what the son did, it was not good. Then before we know that, they said that people here in Calabar rescue people, that they are coming to come and rescue us.
They came here to call me that I should come and see what is happening, what this man did. Then we went there. I called people. So when we get there, we saw them inside the room, lock the door outside. We saw them crying, shit inside, doing different kind of things inside. And if you see them, tears will come out from your eye. Then a lot of women was annoyed around. People came from different news gathered everywhere. Then people came from different way. They broke the door and bring them out.
That day they took him to the police station nearest to the place. Then they took us to where we served. They treated us. They gave us food. They make sure that everything in our health are complete. They make us look good. Then I'm staying with my grandma. Then my uncle is the one trying his best by the grace of God to help us and help his mother. What I want to be in future is a medical doctor. Then I pray that God should help me in all my studies and my career. So I'll purchase my dreams and get my dreams, and I'll help my siblings.
Right, welcome back. That was the story of a young lady and her family. I don't want to talk too much. I'm going to go straight to my guest and we can talk. My first guest on my left is Barrister James Ibor. Barrister Ibor is a human rights lawyer and is the principal counsel at Basic Rights Council. He is also the secretary on the board of Cross River State Administration of Criminal Justice Council, and he represents children and women in all cases of child abuse, including accusations of witchcraft, physical and sexual abuse, neglect and abandonment, child trafficking, child prostitution, gender-based violence, and sexual exploitation. That's a lot.
Thank you, Funmi, for having me.
Right. I know I'm a bit emotional. I'm trying to overcome my emotions because sometimes when I see these things, I really do feel a lot of anger, which is why I'm happy to have also in the studio with me, on my right-hand side, Mr. David Etim Otu. David is a survivor. He himself was accused of being a witch or wizard. At age 12, he left home and lived on the streets before he was rescued. And he will tell us the full story as we go on. Good afternoon, David.
Good afternoon.
What was that like watching that?
I felt the same thing that girl felt because I've been in that shoe before. So it's really touching because I understand than any other person what she's really passing through. So I felt very bad for her because I've experienced that too.
So, Barrister James, I want you to take it from where he stopped. You found him on the streets as he ran when he was 12 and he was on the street for 3 years, so he must have been 15 or thereabouts when you found him.
Yes.
What state was he in when you found him?
Before we organized the first International Day for Street Children, we've interacted with most of them because first we needed to get them to know us before the program. So while we started interacting, while we were interacting with them, we discovered that he was a leader of, he had control over other street kids and very articulate. So we decided, we picked interest in him. So on the day of the event, he helped to mobilize other street kids to the event, and we gave him opportunity. In fact, he told me that if we don't send him to the high table, he's going to get all the street children to leave the hall. I said, of course, you mobilize them. We are going to, the essence of organizing this program is to give you a voice. First, I was struck that he walked up to me and told me that. That made me very happy and gave me the confidence to continue to relate with him. So initially, the program was that he would be called out to talk. But when he protested, we gave him a seat on the high table, where he sat with pastors, with other government officials. And I saw his self-esteem lifted up. He developed it immediately, and we were happy. And when we gave him opportunity to talk, he exploded. And immediately after the program, we asked them, those of them that want to stay in a proper family home. So he was among those that accepted, and he was placed in Sidri with Dr. Mrs. Onoyomita, where he started the journey of his rehabilitation started. And I'm happy to say, today he's an electrical technician and a second-year engineering student in University of Cross River State. So we are very proud of him. And his story is not just, makes me, sometimes we get confused that with all these cases we have, are we actually making progress? But his story is a motivation. It gives us the courage to do more. And we hope government will wake up to know that it is actually their sole primary responsibility to keep children safe.
Have you seen your parents since then?
I've seen my mom. I've had contact with my mom. We've been seeing.
When those things were happening, did your mom know anything?
No.
Where was your mom at that time? She'd already left?
Before I was already born, they are both separated. I don't know why.
Okay.
So tracing my mom then was hard for me.
Have you seen your dad since then?
No, I've not seen.
Do you know what's going on with your dad since then?
I don't want to know. I don't want to see him, because the last time I tried making effort to see him, when I went to our family compound, immediately he saw me, he dodged. Probably maybe he was thinking I was coming like a burden or something. So when I noticed that, I know maybe he does not need me. So I said, I want to make it on my own. I don't want to disturb anybody. So since then, I made up my mind that I don't want to see him.
Well, you know, when we go around, we see children on the streets. We don't know what their story is. Who are the children on the streets? For you, for example, who were the other children you were with on the streets?
Okay, because I've stayed with them, I've eaten with them, we live together. They are not bad children the way other things. Although they will do bad things, you see them maybe probably snatch back or pick your thing. It's because of the situation they find themselves. Not that they are really bad children. Some of them, because of branding them wage, sometimes some of them I met was because they gave them maybe probably something to go and sell, and they lost the money. They won't go back to the house again. They'll just join us. And one small problem or the other. So when they come to the street, we always look for a way to survive. Anyhow, you have to survive. So they will now change from good children they were in the house to street children by doing any kind of thing. But they are good children. If you place them on a proper care, they can become good children or good citizens in the future.
I know that, you know, there are girl children and there are boy children on the streets.
Yes.
What happens to the girls? What happens to the boys?
The girls won't happen to be the worst. A girl child in the street happens to be the worst. We, the male, we can survive, but the girl child won't used to be the worst. Like when I was in the street, what we do is that we don't even allow them to stay in the area, the territory where we are. We have to separate them because they cannot survive pains and all those things, stress. So we now created our own territory, our own region. It's only for the boys. The girls does not come there. Then them, they stay far away from us. And because we don't have money, we are also struggling. So them now, they will have to look for somewhere that have money, and those men will just use them and like that. So their own is the worst.
And these are children as young as 10, 11?
Yes, 10, 11, 12 are children.
Yeah. I mean, David, I thank you for telling, because I usually don't like people to recount these painful stories, because I don't like it, generally. Because unless you can do something about it, I know there's no use unhearsing those things. But I just thought that it might be necessary for you to help us have some kind of more understanding. So, Barrister, this thing, although it happens around the country, there seems to be a high concentration in Cross River State. Why Cross River State?
I may struggle about why Cross River State, but I know maybe before, historically, the old Calabar was reputed to killing old people, vulnerable old women, and that are dubbed or alleged to be witches. When a young person dies in the area, they assume the older women are responsible for his or her death. So you see women struggle to stay young, so they will not be alleged witches or accused of witchcraft and maybe killed. So, but I think maybe during the early 80s, early 90s, the narrative changed. Young children were also being dubbed as witches and wizards, and this time around by Pentecostal churches. And the justification is the Bible provisions like Exodus, suffer not a witch to live. And so many religious Pentecostal pastors started acting home videos, writing books that help to promote the belief in witches and wizards. And children targeted, because a particular pastor wrote a book where she dedicated a particular chapter of her book how to identify a child witch. And I think that material, which first circulated in Akwa Ibom State and Cross River, remember Akwa Ibom State was part of the old Cross River State, and their neighbors, may have been responsible for the spike in witchcraft dubbing and stigmatization. And a lot of children have been killed. As we speak, the Cross River State Minister of Justice is prosecuting a man in Akwa local government who brought the two twins, about 6, 7, after a church dubbed them witches, administered poison, and killed them.
How does a parent get convinced that their child... Help me understand it. You deal with it more. I don't understand it.
Yes, I think for the perpetrators, those promoting it, money is the motivation. And the only way they can make this money is to sell fear. And their survivors, the victims are the children who cannot defend themselves, who cannot talk, or the old people. Most children who have autism, most children whose IQ is very high. There must be a reason to, explain why you should be seen as an extraordinary child. So you must be a witch to possess that intelligence, or not to have the kind of intelligence expected of children of that age. And the pastors and the native doctors are willing to just say something to parents just to control them. They manipulate parents they sell this fear to parents to make them, for instance, as soon as a child is dubbed a witch, remember the child is defenseless. The child cannot explain the circumstances. The pastor or the native traditionalist gets money to carry out exorcism. So his motivation is, if I brand a child a witch, I can get money to perform exorcism. So he gets gain. So, or they can become members of my church. So I can program deliverance for a year or 2 years, and I keep getting offerings and tithes and increase the size of my population or membership in church. They can also sell their books, sell their movies, because Nigerians are very superstitious, so they kind of exploit the vulnerability of Nigerians. Remember, our health sector is, most times people have malaria, and when they buy fake drugs in shops, or they cannot get proper Medicare, they assume there's something extraordinary. And it is that stepchild or that other child in the house, or the child with autism in the house, or that child that is not their child in their home, that may be responsible for the malaria that is persistent and not going. Yeah, this is the story of so many street kids in Calabar and Akwa Ibom states. Similar narrative. And government has to declare emergency and come to the aid of this. We must regulate the way what churches do, how we conduct ourselves in society. Government must keep children safe.
All right. I mean, the next segment is where we are going to be talking about what needs to happen, because I wanted this to just establish the issue. I wanted to come back to you also, David. You are in the university now. Clearly, you are going to do well. Anybody who looks at you would recognize that you have leadership potential. You are quite clear, as to what you want to do. What are you taking forward from this into that?
Outside engineering, because I love engineering. Outside engineering, I don't know. I know with my powers, I cannot really help, but I don't know if there's any situation I can create awareness for this, so that government will know this is what is going on. Because it's not only about the street children alone. I came to discover that there are other things, other cases that are there, and the government does not know.
Yeah, well, we're going to have to go on a break, and I need to thank you. But you did mention then, and we will talk about this is regulation of churches, and then also our own Nigerian or African traditional religion too needs to be regulated, because like churches, they are also just like a belief system. They need regulation, because the converse side of it is that we throw everything away. Without regulation, we don't know what is good and what is bad. And what also happens is that charlatans take over everything. I'm going to say to you that your desire, for example, for raising awareness, you can talk to us about it. This is what we do, especially working with Barrister James here, who already does a lot of work. I thank you very much. I mean, I'll encourage you to still join, maybe sit with the audience when we have our next setup, because Leo is coming on, and a representative of the Human Rights Commission is coming up too, so that we can actually look at what's possible and what's doable going forward. David, thank you. I have my eye on you because I can see where you're going, and the place really looks nice. It really looks good where you're going, so thank you. And Barrister, thank you. Of course, you sit there, and I suppose that during the conversation, we'll probably still have you on. I'll take a break. When we come back from the break, I'll be talking with my next set of guests. Right, welcome back. It's Public Eye, and today's topic is about the issue of witch or wizard child. Hundreds of thousands of children across the country are accused daily of witchcraft and tormented by churches, family, and communities. To continue the conversation with me this morning, I'm going to start with the lady on my left, and that's Amaka Omo. Amaka is the head of the Human Rights Education Unit of the National Human Rights Commission of Nigeria. Good to see you.
Nice being here.
Right. And right beside me on my right-hand side is Leo Igwe, human rights activist, former seminarian, and former Western and Southern African representative of the International Humanist and Ethical Union. And that you are specialized in campaigning against all forms of witchcraft
abuse, demon possession, in fact, everything that comes within this bracket.
Yes. And you hold a PhD in from the International School of African Studies.
Yeah.
All right, lady and gentlemen, what is wrong with people?
Fear of the unknown. What they can't see, they are afraid of. So that drives them to do things that they won't think they will be impossible of doing.
Leo, let me come to you. It seems that the churches became kind of like the igniting, they lit the fire, at least in crossover and Akwa Ibom states, you know, and across the nation. I mean, there was a video some time ago of a very popular pastor who was abusing a young lady in front of hundreds of thousands of people, I think. And she was confessing that she was a witch for Jesus after, because it was asking, are you a Jesus? Are you a witch? Are you a witch? Are you a witch? You know, it was really troubling. You know, I think what was more troubling for me was seeing the reaction of a lot of Nigerians who thought that was okay. That if she was a witch, she should be beaten. How do you recognize a witch?
Well, I think that question will go to those who think there is. You can see the level I have here. I say there are no witches. So I don't think I have the facility to answer that question, but I'm just going to put it in a context. But to put it in a context, I will start from Amaka's response. Fear of the unknown is not just peculiar to Nigerians. Yes, people are also wondering what is out there. If you're following the news now, we're trying to go to Mars. Human beings are trying to get onto Mars. People are trying to explore the universe. So I think that the issue of the unknown, or our worries about it, it is human. Okay? Now, what happens is that there are people who claim that, yeah, Amaka, you say fear of the unknown. Some people will come and say, yes, I know it. I know it. In other words, I have a facility to go into that unknown and tell you what that unknown is. So it doesn't just end on fear of the unknown. There are people that are making currency, making capital, making power base out of the fact that say, oh, you come to me. If you don't know it, I know it. You know, and this is exactly where you see the churches coming in. And that is exactly where you say identifying witchcraft and all that. Because many people who have challenges in life, existential challenges, people who are having challenges having children, okay? And they don't have the structures around themselves that could reassure them, that could provide them the knowledge, you know, missing. So what they do, they go to all these people who claim that they can look into the unknown. And I want you to let you know, these are the main troubles, not vulnerable, ignorant people who are just trying to look for solutions. Look, for me, if you are in trouble, you look for solutions. If you can't solve them yourself, you go to your neighbors, you go to people, please help me, okay? Now, there are people that are capitalizing, that are exploiting that situation. And it is people in need meeting those who say that they are capable of satisfying this need. That's why you see this fire, bam. That's what is going on today. And that is where the churches are coming in. Because people go to them, they say, yes, I know. I can do something like what we saw with one of the guests in the first segment, or in the last segment, coming to say, somebody say, okay, you have to step on the Bible, you have to sow seeds here and there. So they claim. And it is that claim that is holding our society hostage. And until we begin to zoom in and critically look at the people and the claims they're making, and losing these bonds between the fears that are there. They're in India, okay? They're even in Europe, they're in America, all those places. They're in Asia. So losing that grip, and then cut into shape these people that claim to look into the unknown and provide answers. I don't think that we're going to make progress on this.
How bad is the problem, Amaka?
Very bad. You know, the mind is a wonderful component of the body, but the depth of it, nobody can fathom. So you see, what people do is that, what he was talking about, capitalists do is that they look for those things that you are afraid of and intensify it and begin to lure you in to say, don't worry, I have a solution for you. So because you don't know, since the unknown is sometimes unknown to you, it's okay if somebody can provide me with an answer. You succumb and you are caught up. And once they catch you in their grip, you can't escape them because they now use other things to manipulate. I know the subconscious mind is something we can't control. Whatever enters into it is what is going to bring out. And that's one of the most dangerous things, that they begin to give you certain messages that make you believe that they're the only ones that can help you find solutions to the fears that are unknown to you.
What is the role of the Human Rights Commission here?
We always try to do advocacy and sensitization to tell people. The first thing you should know, that there's only one race in the world. It's the human race. And there are basic things that the human race require: shelter, food, clothing, transport. All of us, no matter the color of our skin, no matter the tribe or ethnicity we belong to. If we view everybody that we meet with those lens, our basic humanity will be what we will see. That what I feel I want for myself, I should want it for somebody else. Then the world is a good place for everybody to live in.
Right. How far do things break down further in Cross River State than maybe Osun State? Why don't we have that same level? Or do we have that same level in Osun and we don't know about?
I will first of all move out of Cross River and hopefully come to Cross River, okay? Because, like I used to tell people, I grew up, I'm from Imo State, okay? And when we were growing up, there's always this thing they keep making us to understand that, yeah, there are enemies that they're after you and they want to kill you. So, and when you dream in the night, sometimes you wake up afraid and they will be thinking it's just your neighbors, you know? So they put this thing in you as unconsciously. You get socialized and to look at that. And whenever you fail, when you misstep anywhere, you try to blame somebody silently. Even though, of course, we didn't have this, in my village, we didn't have this idea of maybe either lynching people, as we say, you know, but people really get very hostile and even be wishing that, though that wish will die, you know, because of what he's doing. But they only fall short a bit of going directly to go and harm the person. Now, this problem, in the campaign we're waging now, we have it in Plateau State recently, you know, where children were set ablaze, you know, that was in December, you know, by the parents. It also happened in a situation where an elderly person was ill in the hospital, could not recover. And you know the kind of hospital we have today. I think those in the last segment talked about the health situation. Now the person could not recover. Now a relative went to the family and picked this child of about 7 years, another one about 3 years, and was asking them to release the man, you know, to release the man at the hospital. And they were just denying what they didn't know anything about the allegation and all that. And the next thing, they brought them to the village square and all that. Somebody poured fuel on them and set them ablaze. No, I am working on it now. So in Plateau State.
Hang on, they burnt 7 and 5 year olds.
Yes, about 3. The other one's 3, the other one's about 7. Yes, you know. So they set them ablaze. And you know, they told me that in fact, as they set them ablaze, the children were trying to run away from the fire. Fire sport people were pushing them back, you know, until another woman came and rescued them and all that.
That's crazy. How does it break down to that extent?
So, you know, I think we watched a video earlier about what the girl said. The first reaction of every child, because they're vulnerable, is to look for an adult who will guarantee them safety. So the fear of being beaten is what actually makes the children more vulnerable. Like when they say, did you do this? They quickly say, I don't want to be beaten. They accept, even though they are innocent. Because I always tell people, like when you look at a child's reaction to a question, the first is that the person is hesitant. He watches your countenance to see if he can divulge the truth. Will he be beaten? If you promise that, no, I won't beat you, but next time don't do it, this child will tell you the obvious truth. That's their first reaction.
How do people begin to equate witchcraft
to children?
And children to that sort of capital punishment and torture, you know?
Yeah, you see, the thing is that I want to respond, you know, bringing two perspectives. One ideological, one institutional. But first of all, for me, there's something we must admit. We have failed. We have failed as a society. So all this kind of thing, we are trying to push blames. Oh, pastors here, traditional healers here, and all that. Who are they? Are they not members of this society? Why can't we confront them the way I am here talking with you and we really argue things out? So first of all, we must admit collective failure. Yes. So all this blame we are pushing around is we can do that. But because like you said, when they are burning this week, you see people standing. And I want to tell you, we're not talking about people standing around and watching this thing 10 years ago, 20 years ago. I'm talking about today. People will stand and say, and when you ask them, you say, but who knows now? You know, they're always not sure. And that gets me to that first angle. We must begin to confront the narratives of witchcraft and the narrative that says that somebody could harm others magically. They say, oh, touch not my anointed. We have to touch that anointed. For me, we have to begin to do that. And as long as we continue to shrink from that responsibility, we are contributing to this collective failure. I want to tell you, our institutions, they have failed us. I know Amaka may be uncomfortable here now, but yeah, we are here to make ourselves uncomfortable because we have failed ourselves. Okay? Good. Now, there's something going on in Mokwa, Niger State. If you put that in your Google search now, Hassan Patigi or somebody, I don't know what is allowed here. So this guy came from Kwara State, and he's identifying and naming and shaming witches, to the point that he tells them women were half naked, men all naked, and he told them to be dancing around. And he was throwing sachets of pure water. I'm not saying this happened or hearsay, the videos are there and all that. And to the point that he asked one of the men to urinate into the mouth of the other person. This is going on now. It's going on. This happened in Niger State. So what I'm saying there is that, now, do you know what? Police officers were there. There were some police officers there. And there are some other people. I called the National Human Rights Commission representative in Niger State. You know what he told me? Well, I have not seen the video. If you have seen it, you have to make a formal complaint to us, and then we now look into the matter and all that. I am right there in Ibadan. He is right there in Mina. He has not seen the video. And the day he was talking to me, he was like, yes, this thing going on around there. We must begin to understand that when this thing is failing us, it's affecting us institutionally. And we must respond institutionally to these things. Otherwise, we're not going to stop it. The police officers were there. I called the Commissioner of Police, Niger State. I called the PPRO. I know that. I called the DPO.
Why do you think they didn't respond? I'll come back to...
Yes, you know what? Sometimes, because they said that the chief of Mokwa, they call him Ndalile of Mokwa, that he's the one providing a kind of accommodation to the healer. Because this guy is coming as a healer. Okay? Now, the local chief is in support of that healing process. Okay? Now, there were some people who were not happy with it. And chiefs, they go with some orderlies and police and things like that. So many of them are there. Now, I have called them, I showed the video, I told them, please stop this guy. This guy is a disgrace. He said, we are doing something, that efforts are underway to arrest
Okay, since those other institutions are not here, and and Amaka is here from NHRC, what could NHRC have done in that circumstance?
Well, normally, if we had gotten that video, we actually go to investigate on the scene to find out if we can locate some of the victims. Like we always ask if anybody can identify any of the victims for us, or anybody that knows any family members of any of the victims, we actually go, we interview them personally. And if it is true, we actually go and make sure that the police do the needful and get the person arrested. Right. So I don't know what happened for Niger State. I can't speak. I wasn't there, so I don't really know what was the situation.
Is it possible for, the commission to actually start tackling, because this is about also a belief system. Once upon a time, this is not special to us. Once upon a time, the western part of the world that we like to envy, they were burning women as witches.
Yeah. In England.
In England, they were burning.
In Europe,
in Europe, they were burning people as witches. They were burning women as witches. I mean, it changed. The question we should ask is, even those who have borrowed some of this religion from, why did they abandon these practices? So what changed?
They found out it wasn't true. It was all.
So that's my point now.
Now, because now what we can do as a commissioner, what we're actually doing, that we are now doing what we call community town halls. Because see, everything starts from the communities, these families. These people didn't fall from heaven. They belong to families, and those families belong to communities. That means if the community belief or the cultural antecedents of any community where those people are residing believe in those things, that's like what you said, one of Niger. They feel that maybe there was an issue in their community, they need to bring a healer.
Yeah.
To come and do what? Heal what exactly? Have you asked him what he's going to heal? What was sick in the first place that he needed to heal? If you have illness in your body, is it not to the hospital you go to? What kind of healer was he? Did they ask those kind of questions?
Is it possible to do this education without the kind of institutions that would assure, for example, if you don't have hospitals, it's like even the traditional healers. People go first and foremost to traditional healers for health reasons. And then you can find a lot of them who are charlatans, who can then, lead you down this.
Well, at least I know the Nigerian state has actually started incorporating traditional healing into some of their practices. So what they do is that they try to, put them into a union, make them register, so you actually know all those who are registered, and try to follow up on their practice, so that in case they are into illegal practices or practices that are harmful to people, you can now begin to educate them, say, no, stop that.
Right.
It's no more necessary.
Is like a pastor calling somebody a witch publicly illegal?
Yes, it is actually. How did you, who gave you the parameters in judging the person a witch?
So, for example, that popular pastor who was calling somebody witch, why was he not arrested? That would have been a really strong signal.
Well,
Good. I think that's an important. Yeah. Let me take it from there.
That was actually the commission did step into the issue, and they had mediated. There were meetings that held on. I wasn't part of the meeting, but I did know that.
But
the
you know,
commission
it's a criminal
did.
offense. Yeah, you
The
don't
commission
hold
did step in.
meetings.
I
You don't
wasn't
hold
there,
meetings.
so
You don't hold meetings.
Yes.
I don't.
no, you see, it's
I'm not putting
unfortunately,
people.
I think where that one, what I always try to play, like, it's the family. You know, children, they say your parents are still your primary caregivers, and they have the obligation to protect you. Sometimes it's the parents of these people or the guardians of these people that actually see them.
Do we not have a
But
law?
now we say, that's why where we came in was when with the enactment of the Child's Rights Act, we now said now, we as institutions now have an obligation to do what is in the best interest of whoever the person is that is involved. And now we can supersede you, even the parent now, and take action and actually remove the person, if the person is going to be in harm within that society, and place him somewhere he will be safer.
So, because I'm wondering what recommendations might work, because there are
No,
different levels.
there are already things in place now. We call them children in need, especially when it comes to children in need of care and protection. So you go and get a care and protection order, you remove the child from the custody of the parents or the guardian and take him to a safe home. So we had actually said for all the states who have passed the Child's Rights Act into laws, they need to begin to create safe homes for children in need of special care and protection.
Okay, so that's another level that's institutional,
Yeah.
because the laws might exist,
Yeah.
but then the implementation requires
Implementation
all
requires
these other
certain
things
things, yes.
to be set up. That idea of you can actually prosecute, I mean, push the prosecution of someone who does something like that really, really fascinates me. I was hoping maybe we could see a high-profile case, and that might make a difference.
You know, I think one of the challenges we have is that when you start the case, then you begin to see the family members and people beginning to come and begin to appeal and begin to, and for all of a sudden you won't see the victim again and the family members. Then you are like, you can't cry when you're bereaved. It's been one of the challenging things we've had as a commission. A couple of times we have had to step in, and so much to that is without anybody step into a case. By the time you start, police now say, the people do not know, we have to go through the legal process, the justice system. And by the time you now tell police, because if it's a crime, the police must prosecute. They begin to say, I didn't see them, they've not been calling, their phone numbers are suddenly not reachable. So it becomes quite a Herculean task for us now to actually get them prosecuted. So what we do that, if we actually do find cases now, we actually quickly go and rescue the victim and hold on to the victim.
Exactly. I think Amaka is correct there, and all that, because in Plateau State, the two children who were burnt, I've been following the case, and all that they told me that, look, that as soon as they took the matter to court, that they set up mounting pressure. They will go and call this relative married to the mother of the person. They go and call this politician to go please and beg the family to withdraw the case, because they knew very well that they were going to jail. So the case is stalled at the moment. In Cross River State, we have a case in Boki, and all that, where a local thug, who is politically connected, is also set them, including a mother, set relatives, including his own mother, ablaze, and all that. I have been calling on the PPRO police commissioners, do something, get this guy arrested, and set an example, and all that. We were talking about a high-profile case. Now, I even called the PPRO. The PPRO was telling me that these Calabar people and their witchcraft safe, that if it is in my place, that they would take them somewhere and give them something to drink. That was what PPRO was telling me. I wanted to shut her up, because apparently she didn't know her left from her right. She didn't know her job as a personal person and a professional, okay?
What does she mean we'll give them something to drink?
Yes, she says she's from Edo State. That in Edo State, specifically, because this has happened between us, she says she's from Edo State, that in Edo State, that when people are suspected of witchcraft, that they take them somewhere. And there's always this vagueness. We went somewhere. We met somebody. We consulted. They keep going in this vagueness to justify these illegalities, that they give them something to drink. And you know what happened in 2004, 2003? They gave that kind of thing to some people in Edo State. About 20-something of them, 15 died. And because it was connected to a former military officer within that area, nothing was done up to today. So there's a lot of impunity going on there. So, and until we, like you said, we begin to we're going to tackle these cases. Because people always know those who impute witchcraft are often in very strong financial, political positions, okay? And victims are usually on the weaker side. So immediately you take them up, they pull the triggers. And that's why we have the Boki, 15 people were burnt, 3 are dead. He's not joking that the facts are there, I'm in touch with families and all that, and all that. And James is there and all that. He knows about this. So if you want to take up those powerful people, they will now start pulling the triggers. The Cross River State Governor has not even visited. They have not, no state official has visited the victims. Some of them are still in the hospital today. So it is really hard and challenging to take on those high-profile cases. But we must do that. Otherwise, we can't get to the root of this matter.
I think that's where the media actually comes into play. Like I always tell people, sometimes I found out that the best way to get some cases prosecuted is the media.
Right.
Put it out into the public domain. Then when people begin to speak, you see now there's no hiding place for the culprits.
Yeah, but there's a limit.
Yeah, because because I've seen a lot in the media, and I'm thinking the root of these things goes really deep to the belief system. But I really do think that demystification.
Yeah, but how can we have demystification, a situation where criticizing religious or cultural beliefs is a taboo? How can we have demystification where we teach people to blindly believe, not question ideas? Yes. And again, there is nothing evil in questioning ideas. Why do we demonize it?
Yeah, but we call witches people who question ideas. You're going back in circles. If you question things, you're a witch.
No.
Let's take the audience.
Okay.
Because I can see people twitching in their seats and all of that. There's wisdom everywhere. Let's find some wisdom.
Exactly.
I think it's David there who wants to get into the conversation.
He's the one.
Yes.
He's the one, yeah.
Now, my question is in this form, because Salio is looking at the reaction part of it. Because before any action take place, when an action take place, there must be a reaction. So Salio is looking at the reaction aspect of it. What do I mean by that? It's not, why are you not considering the action part of it also? And what do I mean by that, the reaction? You're saying the police, the government, we did not catch these people, we're supposed to do it. Have we also looked at it? Why is this thing happening? Why is it occurring? Because when we trace it to the root and try to solve it in that aspect, and also using the agencies, the law enforcement agency and the rest, that is when we are going to balance it. Why are we not also looking at the reason, the real reason why these things are happening, rather than looking at law enforcement and this agency to solve the problem?
Okay.
Already.
All right. Okay.
Yes. My question goes to National Human Rights Commission. Okay. We have National Human Rights Commission in Cross River State, and I have personally referred cases to them. But oftentimes they are frustrated because they are poorly funded and they lack the capacity to respond in accordance with the law.
Okay.
Right. So 2 questions.
Yes.
One about tackling things at the roots.
Yeah.
And the question again about how.
Yeah, that one is specific. Yeah, it's for.
Do you want to start?
Amaka?
Yeah, look, let me start with David's own. Like what he said, starting from the beginning. I told you that the cultural context starts from the communities and the families. Our cultural beliefs. Most of these, from experience or maybe from research, we found out that when parents encounter difficulties, either financially or whatever, they want to look for something to blame. They lose their jobs or their source of income has been shortchanged. The next person they tend to go to blame is the people around them. And that becomes their wives and their children. That's how it starts. Unfortunately, sometimes when some of those men, maybe in the process of living life, they lose family members, maybe their wives.
So he's asking, how do we then tackle that?
You see, that's where advocacy and sensitization, you need to begin to discuss this in the town hall, cultural, because those are things that happen in the community. They might not understand that they are doing this. So it's to bring it to them.
Could we also work with, because they go to the churches and the churches tell them this, is it possible to actually work with churches? Can we have churches that understand this, that actually tell people from get-go, it's not, is it possible to work?
We can work with the faith-based organizations and
are you saying no to that?
Both of them. Just a follow-up, because like the case of Oku, I personally drew the attention of the National Human Rights Commission over the case of Oku. The women are there. Over 15 women and men were burnt, set ablaze. We know the person who did it. There are videos, there are pictures, and we also recorded their statements. They called me, interacted with me, but they've actually not issued even a statement. They've issued no statement, and the perpetrator is an appointee of government.
Now that's a direct challenge to you, Amaka. So What's
I
this
will take
particular
that
one?
back home, because unfortunately I'm not in Cross River, so I don't know. I haven't heard from the second side. Like we always believe in fair hearing. Let me hear both sides. I've heard your comments. I'll actually take it home to actually go and investigate further.
Okay,
Because
so
I do know that when things
we
come
like
to us as a commission,
yeah.
we need to respond as fast as we
So
can.
on public eye, our own job is to follow up.
Yeah,
So this
please.
particular one, I'm going to elicit it as a promise from you
Yeah.
that you are going to find out what's going on there,
Yes.
and you are going to instigate,
Yeah.
those
We're going to
responsible
scale
that-
up the response.
Scale up the response. What does scale up the response mean?
It means that maybe I don't know what is applicable now in Cross River because I'm based here in Lagos. We're in the 36 states of the Federation,
Yeah.
And work within the context of the state where you are in. But we always have a working relationship and partnership with the government where we are domiciled. So I'm shocked that for my contemporaries in Cross River, they should have a working relationship with the government of Cross River, both at the government house, the Ministry of Justice, the police command there. But I now can't say what exactly is the issue. If he says he actually interacted with them and they haven't scaled it up.
Okay.
Because we know there are certain cases we actually refer to the Attorney General of the state for prosecution if need be. So, I can't say that now, except I now go investigate, find out what is the hindrance or what is
So
holding
your
them
promise to us is to find out what's going on there and let us know,
Yes.
so that we can then follow up on what's next
Yeah,
after
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I would like to respond to
Go on.
the first question. You see, we need institutional response. People can have a lot of beliefs. You can have whatever. Some people dream, some people, imagine things. Some people are sick. They have mental problem. You go and read a lot of psychiatric issues, schizophrenia, conflict personality, so many. And we are very poor in terms of psychiatric medical institutions. You might get one in one zone or things like that, okay? Now, why do we need institutional response? Now, if you have challenges, for instance, we need to institute what they call child support or child care. Let's say in Germany, where I did my doctorate, if you have a child, the state gives you some allowance. And I want to tell you that, it might sound somehow pedestrian, but if you know that you are deriving something from this child and all that, you treat the child. If you know there's an institution that you will account, they will hold you to account if you harm this child. It's a check. Because we as human beings can be very wired. And as we have seen it now, parents can actually abuse their children. In those states, they were tortured and flogged the child died. But if you know that there is somebody that will ask you, what happened to this child? Why does this child have this mark? And prosecute you? You get restrained on another. So we need institutional response. And again, we need synergy. Like in Ogun State, we had a case where the grandparents are tortured and abused two children. Now, they informed the police worked with social welfare and worked with the courts. They arrested them and they prosecuted them and have them jailed. Do you see it? So we can't just rely on maybe family. Yeah, families are very important. But sometimes parents abuse, they overstep their marks. So that is where the state come in, and that's why we need very vibrant institutions to respond to this. And again, if you're in need, if you don't have a job, overseas, you go, you get into your unemployment, you get some what they call unemployment benefit. But of course, here, we don't have unemployment benefit. If you don't have a job, you go to a pastor. Does a pastor give unemployment benefit? Do you get what I'm saying? So your child is sick, you go to a pastor. Is the pastor a doctor? You get it? Now, if you have health insurance or free health insurance, let's say for children and all that, if your child is sick, you won't even worry, no matter what they say, because you know that the treatment is free. Your work is just to take the child to the hospital. So these are how, in the Western world, they have introduced institutions that have taken away the anxieties and fears that here drive people to abuse children in very horrible ways.
Main thing.
I have to end the show, but one of the beauties of now is that we live in a world where information can be disseminated in many, many ways. So for example, we do this show, which is a television show. It goes out. I've got some promises from you. There's social media, because after the show, we bring people back. Some of them is on social media, because then we can bring the person who is concerned, maybe like say, directly concerned, and say, that show aired yesterday. This is what was happening. So maybe it's Instagram Live this time around. Maybe it's Zoom then. Then I call you, because we start, that synergy has to happen. Where everybody knows what's going on. Our job is to put it out there and see who and who can work together. This particular edition now, you, and you are going to work together on a particular case that's glaring and obvious. We are going to make sure that everybody knows what is being done.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to do it on my own. I've got a younger generation influencer because I like the influencers. You know, they can make a lot of noise and they can get a whole generation of people behind an issue. You know, I think that one of the things we must remember that a lot of our ideas of discipline comes from slavery and colonization. And if we remember that, maybe we'll begin to treat things differently. Because if we make mistakes as adults, do we get beaten? What you usually get is reward and consequences. So for example, for a child, if they do something that we think is wrong, there should be consequences and rewards. You look at what they value and see if you can take that away from them. But that constant beating, which we have normalized as discipline in this part of the world, we have to think about it, that it is a remnant of the breakdown of our own psyche. And we have to change it.
I think it's changing, but you know, it's not going to change in one day. Because I know as we do advocate, when we go to schools, we actually do human rights education in schools. I know that's part of the challenges that we actually have with parents and teachers. They say, the children will become rude. And I said, no. You know, sometimes when you explain to children what they did wrong and tell them that because of you did this thing wrong, these are going to be the consequences, they actually do understand. That's the irony. But you see, because most times we feel that children should not be seen or heard. You know, that's the challenge, but now we have to begin to allow them to have a voice.
I'm completely out of time. You know, you can send all of those information through our social media platforms. We can have conversations outside of the studio, you know, because there are so many ways to do it now. But I thank you all, you know, for coming on the show. Thank you, David. Thank you, Barrister James. Thank you, Amaka. Thank you, Leo. I remember my charge to you. We're going to follow up on that. And that's been today's show. It's Public Eye. We're watching you. Watch yourself. See you again. Bye-bye now.